Welcome to Commander Pop Culture, a place to gather magical information with some laughs, might I add. Hello everyone, welcome. So you want to build Obeka the Splitter of Seconds. This weekend is actually pre-release weekend, so I imagine some of you opened her up in your packs, and now you have an interest in building her. Well, I have a budget list for you.
You build it, they will come.
At $100, you can have a very powerful list, and that's what I'm here to help you out with. So I won't go into the parts of the deck that add balance, so removal spells, I won't talk about ramp, and I won't talk about card advantage packages unless it's a synergistic piece. Just to warn you all, I just don't want to waste anybody's time. My lands are also for mana fixing. There are no I guess, utility to them, with the exception of Ghost Quarter. To talk about the commander of the deck, whenever it deals damage to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps after this turn. The significance of this commander is that if you have waited to play an upkeep matters kind of deck first, that significantly fixes all the problems associated with those kinds of decks. For one, you don't have to wait a full revolution on the table after you play something to get those upkeep triggers, because they'll happen after you connect with Obeka. So it fixes a tempo issue, and then on top of that, she herself gives you multiples of those based on a amount of damage you deal to someone. Things we care about buffing her, we care about making her more evasive than she already is. I mean, Menace is pretty decent, but it's not quite good enough, just in case the boards get a little more cluttered up, because people will block you to deny you those triggers, especially if you have anything scary in play. Let's get talking about it. AR Kokakra Sneak. I kind of butchered the name of this card, but Initiative is extremely powerful in this deck. The Initiative triggers on upkeep. Initiative lets you go through a very particular dungeon that was part of Commander Legends 2, and all the abilities on that dungeon are very useful, and you just choose the pathway, and you just cycle through it over and over again on every upkeep. Obviously, with Obeka, you could go through multiple stages of a dungeon per turn. Same thing with Rilsa Rail. 5 mana does it, but then you get an additional benefit should you complete a dungeon. Stirring Bard not only initiates the initiative, but can give a target creature haste. So commander dies, or you follow up to Stirring Bard with your commander, you could give her haste and then crack someone for 2. Another initiative card. This one, if you've completed a dungeon, defending player loses a life for each card they own in exile that you've exiled with this creature. She puts hit counters on people's creatures. Should they die, they get exiled with that counter. Escape Familiar, you are in Grixis. So I know I said I wouldn't talk about ramp, but this is a very effective coupon. It makes all your non-black spells one less to cast, and it also has regenerate, so it protects itself. Caverns of Chaos Adventure. I don't know how many times I've died to this in 1v1 Commander, but I'm pretty excited to try it out myself.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Not only does it give you an initiative, but it lets you get some card advantage. Zinprodder. This is another card advantage piece with a upkeep trigger. You target an opponent, and then they decide if they want to take damage or let you put it in your hand. It'll rack up. This card gets better as the game goes on, because obviously people's life totals will be a lot smaller. Braids Conjure Adept. This is normally a HUD card, but since you get more upkeeps than everybody else, you should break the symmetry of Braids pretty nicely. That's why she's in here. Skyline Despot. This is one of your win conditions. You become the Monarch, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the Monarch, you put 5/5 dragons into play. Joyer the Gitu. One sub-theme with this list is that your commander is really good for the suspend mechanic, because on upkeep, you remove a suspend counter. Joyer can help you cheat stuff into play. For 2 mana, you set a card aside with 4 time counters on it, and then go off to the races. Twilight Prophet, this is a good drain effect. If you have the City's Blessing, you on upkeep reveal the top of your library. Each opponent loses life, and you gain X life, where X is the amount of mana that card has. Pretty good. Plargan Nasari, this is a sweet card advantage piece. You get to steal stuff from other people. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards from the top of their libraries till they exile a non-land card. So no matter what, you're going to hit gas with Plargan Nasari. Your opponents pick 3 of those 4 cards for you to play, and you get to play 2 of those spells for free. It's pretty awesome. Herald of Lash Rack, this is also another kind of cool win condition. If you are able to get Obeka's power high enough, and you crack someone for a lot while this is in play, you could steal a significant amount of lands from everybody and remove them from their ability to interact with you. Silent Arbiter, this kind of pulls double duty. It makes it so Obeka is unblockable because no more than one creature can block your stuff. Obviously, Obeka has Menace, so that just makes her unblockable. It's also a really good defensive piece where no more than one creature can attack you each combat. Creeping Bloodsucker, this is a drain effect. You do 1 point of damage to everybody and get 3 back on every upkeep, so it should keep your life total nice and healthy. And I imagine you'll be drawing a lot of aggro your way because you're doing a somewhat of a broken strategy. I think out of all the commanders from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Obeka is probably going to be the most popular. Inspiring Refrain, this is another suspend card. The beauty of this one is it suspends itself on resolution, so once you cast it once, you'll always have access to it, and then for every 3 counters you remove, you get to draw 2 cards for free.
Again and again and again.
Distortion Strike, target creature gets +1/+0 and is unblockable and has rebound, so you'll get 2 uses out of this for the cost of 1 mana. And it gives you a stat increase. Reality Strobe. This could be a win condition if the game has gone on long enough and you get Obeka really big. The significance of Reality Strobe is you could bounce any permanent, i.e. even lands. If you could go through this multiple times in a single turn, that's a lot of permanents getting bounced to people's hands. Although I'm playing it probably more fairly, I'll probably just be using this more often as just single target removal. Because at that point, when I get Obeka that big, they probably are just gonna die. Just due to combat damage, no need for Reality Strobe, but at least 2 other people will survive afterwards, and you could just use it on the surviving players. Rousing Refrain, this is a nice mana suspend card that gets reused over and over again, because it also suspends itself on resolution. Because you have a sub-theme also for Voltron, you want really powerful and cheap equipment. Civic Saver fulfills that really nice. It gives a +1/+0 stat for each of its colors. So Obeka will be a 5/5 for the low cost of 2 mana, and then 1 mana beyond that should every time you equip her. It's a really good equipment. You want to do the Voltron route, this is probably an auto include. The rings, this gives you scaling power. With every upkeep, you get to put a counter on your commander. The rings are all snowball-y cards. It gets worse and worse as the game goes on for your opponents. Tenza Godo's Maul gives +3/+3 and trample. Very good on Obeka. Champion's Helm. This is just a protection piece that has efficient equip costs, and it also gives a stat increase, kind of pulls multiple duties. Replicating Ring, I thought this would be kind of fun. I normally don't go for 3 mana rocks, but I did include this one because once it has 8 or more night counters on it, create 8 tokens, so you'll have total 9 Replicating Rings in play. And that's a lot of mana at your disposal, and it should happen relatively consistently. Vorak Battlehorns, this is another cheap evasion piece. Does the same thing as Silent Arbiter. The equipped creature can't be blocked by more than 2 creatures, and combo that with Menace, can't be blocked at all. Swiftfoot Boots, we all know what that does. Wing Boots, I'm very excited for it because it gives your commander evasion, it's cheap to equip, and Ward 4. Basically, Ward 4, it might as well say Hexproof in my book, but because they still have to pay for the spell to target your commander. If they manage to sink all that mana just to kill your dude, then they deserve it. They just wasted an entire turn's worth of mana just to kill one thing. It doesn't feel good for your opponent, so this card's a lot better than it looks. Tavern Brawler.
Please, this isn't a bar fight.
This serves as a card advantage piece and a stat block increase. Commander creatures control have at the beginning of your upkeep, exile a top card of your library. It gets +X/+0, where X is the mana value. You should see a lot of cards with the Obeka trigger, and it gets bigger. Unfortunately, because this happens post-combat, this card will serve exclusively as a card advantage piece. But opening upkeep, you get to take advantage of a stat increase. As foretold, at each of your turns, you may pay 0 rather than the mana for a spell with mana value X or less, where X is the number of counters on As Foretold. So this lets you cheat stuff into play based on how many counters are on it. Loot Dispute, another initiative card. Only this one brings in a treasure on ETB, so it's more like a 3 mana spell, even though it costs 4. And then whenever you attack the player with initiative, you get another treasure back. Whenever you complete a dungeon, you make a 5/5 dragon with flying. It does a lot. I would say. Court of Ire. You become the Monarch, and then on upkeep, you deal 2 damage to any target, and then if you're the Monarch, you deal 7 instead. I like the flexibility of this card. I think most of the time you'll be using it to shoot people in the face, but in case there's a threat on the board, you could probably plink off everything. Aether Tunnel, this is a stat increase that makes your commander unblockable. It's really cheap and efficient. Mechanized Production, this is another win condition. You put this on an artifact, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a token copy of the enchanted artifact. I've never won with a Mechanized Production before. I think this is a really good deck for that though. Goblin Assault, this is purely to make bodies for blocking, because once it goes all the way around, the goblins have to attack, but you'll need some kind of defense, because I imagine people won't be enjoying your company very much, even in this budget deck of $100. Patient Rebuilding, this is a card advantage piece and a win condition. You get to, per upkeep, mill 3 cards from someone, and then for every land card you get to draw. Pretty nice. Oubliette, this is just to deal with pesky commanders. They exist, you have to deal with them, and like sometimes dealing with them once isn't enough, and Oubliette fixes that problem very effectively. Anytime I'm in black, I run Oubliette. Blue, I also run things like Imprison in the Moon traditionally, but I already have plenty of other efficient removal, and Oubliette's just like slightly better because you deny a little bit of object permanence, turns the commander into a land, and I don't know, people could strip mine it away or sack it by some other means. Oubliette's just slightly harder in my opinion. Phyrexian Arena, it's in Phyrexian text because it's the cheapest version, but I feel like most know what it does. You get to put a card in your hand and lose a life. And with Obeka, you get to see a lot of cards. Court of Cunning, another win condition. I would say all the courts are your win conditions. This one mills people for 2 cards, and if you're the Monarch, you mill people for 10 instead. Court of Ambition, you give the opponents a choice on upkeep. They either lose 3 life unless they discard a card, and then if they're a Monarch, you double. They lose 6 life or discard 2 cards. Descent into Avernus, this is a bit of a risky card. The rule is you have to make sure you have more life than everybody else. I could see a lot of games drawing inadvertently if you do this wrong. With every upkeep, you put 2 descent counters on this, and then it deals double the damage to everybody, including yourself, and gives them treasures. I don't know how good you are at mental math, but you have to do some 3D thinking and think of the compounding interest that this develops, because if you play this, get a bunch of Obeka triggers, and you end up killing yourself with everyone else and ending in a draw, I imagine that won't feel good for the table. If you're going to play it, then play it to win. This could end up being a dead card in your hand, especially when you're in the bottom of the pack. And that brings us to the end of the deck tech for Obeka, the Splitter of Seconds. I'll include the list in the description below. If you have any questions or suggestions on the deck, feel free to comment below. I hope everyone enjoyed. Everyone take care now. Bye.